Now, I want to give you, I've got 8 points tonight, and these are just real practical stuff. Real practical stuff. We're just going to lay it out there very practically, and these are some things that will help you to have a better marriage and also help you to not mess up your marriage. Not to mess up your marriage. Number one, once you get married, your best friend needs to be your spouse. All right? Now, on the back of your midweek messenger, there's a place for you to take notes. Bring a pen or pencil. You can take some notes on there. If you're high tech, pull your phone out. You can type some notes in your notepad in your phone or tablet or whatever you got there. Once you get married, your best friend needs to be your spouse. You ought to want to spend the most time with your spouse, not your other friends when you get married. Before you get married, have a bunch of friendships, be friendly with everybody. But once you get married, the person that you ought to desire to spend, if not all your time with, the majority of your time with, ought to be your spouse. And if you say, well, I don't feel that way, well, then you need to work on that marriage a little bit, because that person it ought to be someone that you desire to spend time with. If you can't stand spending time with them, you might need some marriage counseling real quick. And so it's important that you learn to spend time with that person who's your spouse. Once again, the Lord wants they to become what? One. He wants you to become one. And it's so important that you do everything together. I have, gentlemen here in the church that I'll spend time with from time to time. We'll go maybe do some things together. But there's probably one person and only one person here that I spend the most time with, and that's my wife. And it should be that way. And if you're married here tonight, you ought to have that same desire to spend the majority of your time with that spouse, with that person, all right? Number two. Avoid spending time with the same couple all the time. Avoid spending time with the same couple all the time. These are some things that I give in marriage counseling. If I've counseled, I know Mundo and Abby, I counseled you guys. That's something that we talked about in marriage counseling. Don't spend time with the same people. And Jonathan back there as well. The longer you spend time with people, the more you get relaxed around them. All right? And so it's very important that you don't spend too much time with one couple, because the more you get relaxed, the more opportunities you have to possibly, in that relationship between that couple and this couple, to have adultery come up in that relationship. And unless you think, no way that couldn't happen to me, I can give you a dozen examples where it has happened. And much more I can name a pastor right now that I found out just recently. He was spending time with him and his wife were spending time with another couple in the church too much. And they ended up having adultery. You said, well, not me. Well, if a pastor and his wife and them can have that type of sin happen, it can certainly happen to you too. All right, so don't think you're so great. Avoid spending time with the same couple all the time. The longer you spend time with people, the more you get relaxed around them. Then when you get relaxed around people, you start letting your guards down. And you think, oh, it's no big deal, his wife, we're buddies, and we can spend time together. In fact, we'll spend time without our spouses. Dangerous territory, folks, dangerous territory. So once again, just like all my other lessons, take it or leave it, free advice. If you don't want to listen to me, go for it. But you have been warned from your pastor, all right? Number one, once you get married, your best friend needs to be your... Number two, avoid spending time with the same couple all the time. I'm not saying don't spend any time with anyone. There's nothing wrong with having fellowship and going out, having dinner with other couples or whatnot. But sometimes couples, they start spending time with the same people and they get locked in and they spend too much time together. Once again, the more time you spend around people, the more you let your guards down, and before long, you can have adultery in that relationship. All right? Number three. A married man or woman should never have friends that are the opposite sex of them. A married man or woman should never have friends that are the opposite sex of them. I did not say that you could not have acquaintances. or to be friendly, or to be colleagues with other opposite sex people if you're married. What I'm saying is you need to be careful about being friends with them. There's a difference between being friendly and being a friend, all right? Once again, you're married, your best friend ought to be your spouse. Amen? But if you start getting comfortable spending time with the opposite sex, before long you're going to let your guards down and you're going to mess up in your relationship. It's too risky for you to be friends with the opposite sex without you getting a little comfortable after a while. Husbands can be friends with other men. Wives can be friends with other women. But if you venture out from there, you're playing a dangerous game. And lest you think you shouldn't fall or you won't fall, once again, I can give you a dozen other examples of people who've messed up. Be very, very careful. Once again, doesn't mean that you can't be friendly. All right? Doesn't mean, if you're a husband here, doesn't mean you can't talk to any of the ladies in church. All right? Doesn't mean that. But you better be careful if you start getting too friendly and being friends with them all the time. All right? Your best friend ought to be your spouse. All right? Number four, if you have other married couples visit your house or spend the night, it is unwise to wear your pajamas around them. I told you this would be real practical stuff. Just real simple practical stuff. Once again, you're getting too comfortable around these other couples. And you start putting your pajamas on, before long, you're just going to feel like it's okay that you do all kinds of other strange and weird things. All right? I'm not, it sounds ridiculous, but I'm just being super practical with you here. If you have friends come over, you ought to stay in your clothes, and then when they go to bed, you go in your room, you change, go to bed. But when you come out in the morning for breakfast, you ought to have some clothes on, not wearing your pajamas. Because you start feeling comfortable around them in that situation, you may feel comfortable in other situations too. All right? The only people that need to see you in your PJs is your family, not your friends. All right? Now, if you come over to my house unexpected, you might see me in my PJs. All right? But other than that, your friends ought not to see you in your PJs. Just your family. All right? And once again, call me old-fashioned, fuddy-duddy, weird, whatever you want, but I'm just trying to save some marriages, trying to keep people from committing sin, all right? Number five, married people need to be careful with texting and calling the opposite sex. Your spouse should have access to your phone anytime they like. Your spouse will not allow you to look at their phone, text messages, you might want to get marriage counseling real quick. Because there should be nothing private that you text or call the opposite sex other than your spouse. Your wife ought to feel comfortable. Then you want to give your wife security. Let her know who you're talking to. Oh, I'm calling so-and-so. Oh, I text so-and-so. I said this. We were talking about this. Okay, that's fine. So, well, that's a little unnecessary, is it? Well, whatever, be unnecessary or get yourself in trouble. Do whatever you like. But it's always better to be safe than what? Sorry. Better be safe than sorry. So be very careful about texting and calling the opposite sex. If you do, then be open and forthwith. Hey, I called them, or this person texts me. Some lady or somebody calls late at night, say, oh, so-and-so is calling about this, and you do this. Be open. Let them know what's going on. All right? Number 6. Super practical stuff tonight. Number 6. Older married couples should try to mentor younger married couples when possible. If you're an older couple in the church, you've been married for 20 plus years, you've got something that you should be teaching these younger couples. Amen? I mean, I'm sorry, but the world isn't producing marriages that last more than 4 or 5 years. And so if you're a godly Christian couple that have stayed together for 20 plus years, you've got something to bring to the table. You can say, you know what, we learned something. And if you've been married that long, you've probably learned that it hasn't always been heavenly bliss. It hasn't always been roses all the time. There's been some rough patches in any marriage that goes on that long. And so if you've been married that long, surely you've got something that you could bring to these other young couples and say, hey, let me teach you about this. Let me tell you about this. Don't be afraid to do so. Now, you younger couples should be very wise to go to the older couples and ask them questions about finances. Ask them questions about child rearing. Ask them questions about marriage disagreements, how to deal with that. Ask them questions about spiritual growth. Ask them questions about intimacy. Ask them questions about how to get along with your children, parents with children, vice versa. So there's a lot of areas that you could go as older couples, and you could talk to these younger couples, and if they're wise, they'll seek your advice, as there's wisdom in that, and they'll learn from it. And go, oh boy, my dad used to say years ago, David, it's better to learn from someone else's mistakes instead of making those mistakes on your own. So if you know somebody else, not necessarily that made mistakes, but maybe they've done something or done something right or wrong, it's better to learn from them than for you to have to make the same mistake. How wise would it be for you to go to other people and say, hey, what did you do in this situation? How did you handle this? Because once again, older people have been down a road that you haven't been down yet. They've had kids. They've been married for so many years. They've had financial problems. They've had situations with how to grow spiritually together. They've had all these problems, and they've learned to work through it. Now, you'd be wise to ask them, well, how did you do it? Instead of you having to do it. Now, it doesn't mean that those times aren't going to come in your marriage, because they probably will. But it's always nice if you can lean on someone else and get some advice. All right, so we said number one, once you get married, your best friend needs to be your who? Number two, avoid spending time with the same what? All the time. Number three, a married man or woman should never have friends that are the opposite sex of them. Number four, if you have other married couples visit your house or spend the night, it's unwise to wear your what? PJs or pajamas, whatever you want to write there. Number five, married people need to be careful with texting and calling the opposite sex. Your spouse should have access to your phone anytime they like. And then number six, older married couples should try to what? Mentor younger married couples when possible. Just some real practical stuff. If you're married, number one, that ought to be your best friend. But then once you're married, you need to be careful with the relationships that you have outside of your marriage. Because if you have the wrong type of relationship, it could affect your marriage. So it's very wise that you are careful about that. Next week, we're going to talk about this, ministry friends. Ministry friends. The longer you are in church, and many of you're in ministry, you're doing ministry related things, you're going to have friendships, maybe friendships that started maybe out of college, or friendships that started in high school, or maybe here in our church, and you have different ministry friendships. You need to know how to treat those friendships and what to be careful of in those friendships. So